Your family tree drips with drama.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's where I inherited wanting to be, you know.
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the most intense, drama-filled reactions and reveals on PBS's Finding Your Roots.
I'm not overacting. I'm not. I am at a loss for words.
Number 10, Viola Davis.
We like stories that are going to elevate us.
Right.
You know, we're not so good with messy truth.
No.
And this is a messy truth.
On Finding Your Roots, award-winning actress Viola Davis learned the messy truth of her maternal lineage. While researching documents about Davis's grandfather, Henry Logan, they found a discrepancy that revealed a long-held secret. In the early 1940s, Gable Logan was listed as Henry's father on his Social Security application. However, after Henry passed away in 1979, his obituary stated he was the son of a man named John Young.
Did your mom ever talk about this?
Never.
Isn't that interesting? That silence?
Silence is always interesting to me.
According to DNA analysis, Henry's biological father was indeed Young, a nearby neighbor of Corinne in South Carolina. Davis didn't appear too shocked by the inference that her grandfather was born from an extramarital affair. However, she had some very poignant words of wisdom about ancestry.
It makes me know that I entered this world with a big old load. From the moment I came out of my mother's womb.
Right.
I'm the amalgamation of a lot of stories and a lot of secrets.
Number 9, Pamela Adlon. In 2022, actress, writer, and director Pamela Adlon appeared on Finding Your Roots to solve a decades-long family mystery about her mom, Marina.
I want to know, and I don't want to disrespect my lineage, but I'm so curious.
It was always rumored that Marina wasn't the biological daughter of Leonard Leese, the only father she'd ever known. Researching Adlon's genealogy was a multiple-year process, but DNA results were finally able to determine that the rumor was true. Marina's birth father was actually a man named Joseph Walthew.
Wow. I'm so happy that I get to
I
give
am
this
too.
to my mom.
Adlon's grandmother Phyllis was already married to Leonard when Marina was conceived. Researchers also discovered she had a half-sister named Gloria, Walthew's other daughter. The truth may be scandalous, but in the end, it brought families together.
Your mother's got a sister, and she's alive and well, and she's 83 years old.
My mother's gonna be so happy.
Number 8, RuPaul. In season 6, host Henry Louis Gates Jr. tells RuPaul Charles the compelling story of his maternal great-great-great-grandmother Julie, who was owned by a man named Jacques Fontenette. Interestingly, he freed her 2 children, Nanette and Andre, but kept Julie herself enslaved. RuPaul and Gates speculate on the reason for this act of compassion, theorizing that he could have been their father.
Love?
Love would be the number one thing that would someone would grant someone their freedom like this.
But he didn't love Julie enough to free her too.
Right. Yeah.
Researchers discovered a record of manumission from 1818 stating that Andre bought his mother from Fontenette. After his tragic death, Nanette succeeded in freeing her, roughly 14 years after she and Andre were granted manumission.
Very easily people could fade away.
It's too much.
Too much.
Too much.
And he didn't quite get to the finish line, but his sister
But his sister did.
picked it up.
Yeah, and he made sure of that.
Wow.
RuPaul can relate to the siblings' determination and tearfully recalls how he felt caring for his own mother before she passed away.
I've done a lot of things in life. That turnaround of helping my mother like that has to be the most incredible thing I've ever done.
Number 7, LL Cool J.
That's heavy.
I mean, you know, you couldn't have told me in 1,000 years, in 1,000,000 years that this was the case in my life.
The early life of James Todd Smith, also known as LL Cool J, was scarred by his violent father. After the couple separated, LL and his mother, Andrea Griffith, went to live with her parents, Eugene Griffith and Ellen Hightower. But Finding Your Roots made a life-changing discovery. The Griffiths were not LL's biological grandparents.
It's a little devastating to know that, that guy that raised me, that was so kind to me, wasn't my blood.
Andrea was born Andra Jolly to parents Ethel May Jolly and Nathaniel Christie Lewis, and later adopted by Eugene and Ellen. It's a lot to process, especially since she never knew she was an adoptee. However, LL still has love and respect for the people who had a hand in raising him.
I respect Eugene Griffith. I respect Ellen Hightower Griffith. They did so well for us. I have more love and respect for them than I ever did. Ever.
Number 6, Terry Cruz. Like many participants in Finding Your Roots, Terry Cruz goes on an emotional roller coaster, learning about the triumphs and tragedies of his ancestors.
Man, this is a movie. This is a movie.
It's true.
No, it is.
And it's your story.
This is a movie. Think about this.
The multi-hyphenate entertainer learned that he likely inherited his ambitious nature from his maternal great-great-grandfather, Edward Albert. The men also share a similar resilience, as Cruz's 4 times great-grandparents, George and Fannie Newsom. George was enslaved by a planter named Hezekiah Newsom, while his wife and kids were at a nearby property. In 1858, Fannie was separated from 5 of their 7 children.
This is just in one day, one action.
Can you imagine having your family separated and the generations all, and one day you saw your mom, and the next day she was gone forever.
She's gone, man.
I can't imagine.
4 years after a partial reunion in 1861, all 9 family members were finally together again. As a father of 5, Cruz felt a strong connection with his relatives and was deeply touched by their harrowing experience.
I cannot imagine any of my babies being yanked and pulled out of my arms and taken away into someone else's household. I would never know where they went.
Number 5, Lavar Burton.
I'm ecstatic.
Yeah.
I can't even explain how it feels to get this information. It's like there have been pieces of me that have been missing.
After his breakout role in the 1977 miniseries Roots, Lavar Burton was the host and executive producer of PBS's beloved educational series Reading Rainbow, which ran from 1983 to 2006. He's long been an advocate for literacy and always attributed it to his mother, Irma Jean Christian, a school teacher. But on Finding Your Roots, he discovered that his paternal relatives were also passionate about education.
You come from educators on both sides.
That's very cool. I'm very proud of that.
Estranged from his father since he was 11, Burton had no idea that his grandfather and great-grandfather both worked as school superintendents, and the latter was instrumental in founding and running a school in Osceola, Arkansas for African-American children. Lavar Burton was amazed that he had this powerful connection to his father's family for all this time.
This is gonna reverberate for a while.
Hey, of course.
It's
forever.
so powerful.
Yeah.
Number 4, Eliza Schlesinger. Finding Your Roots helped actor-comedian Eliza Schlesinger dig into her Eastern European paternal origins. She learned that her great-grandmother, Esther Zonek, managed to make her way from Poland to New York in 1921. However, she left behind 5 siblings.
I know that feeling when your sibling's in danger and you feel helpless, especially from like an ocean away. So I can't begin to imagine this. I don't think I want to.
In September 1939, Mława, the small Polish town where Esther's brother Lipa worked, was invaded by German soldiers, and its Jewish residents were confined to a walled-in ghetto. In November 1942, Lipa, along with many others, was taken to Auschwitz concentration camp, where he died less than a year later.
The fact that there was even a doctor, because you're murdered.
Right.
Your heart didn't degenerate. Of course it degenerated because you were starved and...
Sure, of course.
You were murdered. I can't believe these monsters even wrote it down. But because they're psychotic, they wrote everything down.
Schlesinger felt proud that Esther immigrated to the United States on her own, but hearing about her close connection to the horrors of the Holocaust was a painful realization.
It was already so real. And so now it's palpable.
Number 3, Mandy Patinkin.
I worry for the world. The unthinkable happened.
On Finding Your Roots, actor Mandy Patinkin traced the ancestry of his paternal grandfather, Max, and great-uncle David Patinka, who came to America. David ultimately returned to Europe, where he, his wife, and 2 of their 5 children were killed during a robbery. In 1939, his son, Chaim, traveled to New York while Chaim's brother, Lazar, remained in the northeastern Polish town of Bronsk, where the Germans confined them to a ghetto in 1941.
Lazar would have been about 29 years old. His wife, Bluma, would have been about 25, and their son, David, would have just been a few months old. They had relatives in America, but now they were trapped.
On November 2nd, 1942, over 2,000 Jewish residents, including Lazar and his family, were sent to the Treblinka concentration camp. Just days later, they died in gas chambers, and their bodies were disposed of in a crematorium. Just like Eliza Schlesinger, hearing what his relatives endured in the Holocaust was heart-wrenching and overwhelming for Patinkin.
I was never given this information. This is I don't have words. That's unbelievable. Almighty. That's unreal.
Number 2, Pharrell Williams.
I don't want to cry, and I'm trying not to be angry.
You're not a machine. This is horrendous. What else can you feel? It's horrible.
It's intense, sir. It's intense.
Learning about the hardships and atrocities your ancestors faced is never easy. On Finding Your Roots, Forel Williams had the opportunity to read a first-hand account written by his great-great-great-aunt, Jane Arrington, who was enslaved on a cotton plantation.
Sometimes I swept the yards after working all day. There was a task of cotton to be picked and spun by them. What kind of people?
As a part of the Slave Narratives project of the 1930s, Arrington detailed the indignities her family suffered day to day. Reading her words and envisioning the painful reality of their lives had a visible effect on Williams. Despite the emotional experience, he was grateful to gain this intimate knowledge of his ancestors.
And I thank God that I got to hear it. But I'm so sorry they went through this.
Oh, nobody should have gone through this.
It's a lot, man.
Oh,
I have to say I am forever changed.
Before we unveil our top pick, here are a few honorable mentions. Issa Rae. The actress-producer discovered some relationships were a bit complicated.
Your 4th great-grandfather was a white man.
This is so... It's like you just took me through a soap opera, like a slave soap opera.
John Lewis. Civil rights activism runs in the family.
So maybe, just maybe, it's part of my DNA, my bloodline, or whatever you want to call it.
Larry David. The comedian learns his mother's real name.
I cannot believe that I didn't know her real name. That's astounding.
yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Fred Armisen. The SNL alum can't believe his true identity.
You understand that I tell people that I have interviews
Right.
where I say I am a quarter Japanese.
Because you thought you were quarter Japanese, but genetically you're quarter Korean.
Why hasn't anyone told me this?
Questlove. The Roots drummer's ancestors came to the U.S. on the last known slave ship.
Until an hour ago, I didn't know who I was. I said I wasn't gonna cry, man.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1, Joe Manganello.
I feel like a time traveler.
this is something out of some science fiction novel. that I gave a small part of me, ran it through this computer, and it said, step in.
For some shocking discoveries, host Henry Louis Gates Jr. respectfully informs the guest off camera prior to proceeding with the episode, which was the case with actor Joe Manganello. He learned the mind-blowing truth that DNA showed he wasn't biologically related to his paternal grandfather. Instead, his father's father was a light-skinned African-American man with the last name Cutler.
That means, Joe Cutler, that you would, under the one-drop rule, be an African-American.
Boy, now that's really interesting.
Manganello knew the harrowing story of his maternal great-grandmother, Terviz Rose Durakjan, an Armenian genocide survivor who had a half-German daughter, Sandra, his grandmother. The show revealed her father to be a soldier named Karl Wilhelm Beutinger, whose son went on to join the Nazis' SS. Learning this wealth of information had such a profound impact on Manganello that he continued tracing his genealogy after the show.
For me to be sitting here today, it's like threading a needle with a bow and arrow at 100 yards.
It's true.
3 times.
It's true. It is true.
It's impossible.
Which of these moments did you find the most dramatic? Let us know in the comments.
My job is to imagine.
Right.
That is my profession.
Right.
I have never been able to get a hold of that.